Hey guys, if we reach 1,000 likes, we'll be giving out 2 of our new shirts. All you gotta do is click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. When you're younger, adults tell you all kinds of lies when you're growing up. Video games won't get you anywhere, that you need to drink milk to grow up big and strong, and TV only rots your brain. All of those things are extremely debatable and wrong. For instance, there was a lot of memorable quotes, even in modern day TV, that I remember watching. It still resonates with me today. Script writers have always found a way to interject a lot of morals into the cartoons, because they know the kids are watching it, and our future is molded by them. So we might as well get them to think about complex issues from the start. My name is Moliminous, and join me as we count down the top 10 quotable moments in anime and cartoons. Keep in mind, this is my list, and even in my own list, there were way more than 10, but because I have to make cuts, I have to make cuts, and so I can only put 10 on here. You don't have to like the same exact quotes that I do, but I don't have to like the same ones that you do. Feel free to leave your favorite quotes with the show that it's from and the character down below. Number 10. Steven Universe Pearl.
What they don't know is your real advantage. When you live for someone, you're prepared to die.
What they don't know is your real advantage. When you live for someone, you're prepared to die. So there's this whole notion of dying for something. There's a lot of people that go around who say that they don't actually have a problem with death, but their problem is dying for nothing. Dying without a true cause or a purpose that they were set to fulfill. And there's a lot of people who live for nothing. You have someone that you're willing to die for, but you have someone that you're even willing to live for. And I think living for someone is even more impactful than dying for them. There's 1,000,001 ways that you can interpret this line, and that's why it's so good. It's also something done by a more modern day cartoon. And yes, Steven Universe gets a lot of praise because of its scripting, because of its way that its characters interact with each other, but this line particularly stood out to me. Its entire song is very emotional. It's Pearl. Pearl has always had a bunch of deep scenes with her because of her relationship with Rose, which then translates to her relationship with Steven. There's a lot of weird feelings going on, and a lot of stuff that she says has more than one meaning. Number 9. Samurai Jack.
The shell of an oyster only hides the pearl inside.
The shell of an oyster hides the pearl inside. This one is probably a thing that you guys have heard all over the place. Now, it's probably not said exactly like this, and when it was said, it probably wasn't as common. The kids watching it, this was probably their introduction to this. People who have hard exteriors sometimes have something that's good deep inside of them. Just because someone looks hard doesn't mean that they don't actually have a heart of gold. People may look a certain way that appears scary to you or different and weird and strange, but just because they look weird doesn't mean that they are weird, or doesn't mean that they are bad. An emo or goth, back in the days, those were strange things, strange concepts for parents to understand. But just because a person dressed a certain way or had tattoos didn't mean they were out to hurt you or your family. And just because someone acts tough doesn't mean that they are actually that tough. People put up a shield to protect themselves, probably because they've been hurt before, because they know people try to use you. If you look like you're vulnerable, then you will be taken advantage of. That's the world we live in. Some people think the risk is worth it, and others lock themselves away. But that doesn't mean that they're bad because of it. Number 8. Kill la Kill. A castle that vanishes at the first gust of wind is worthless. A skyscraper within your mind will never fall down. It seems kind of silly, like someone who's trying to be deep, but fails. But does it really? It's kind of like envisioning what you want to have in your mind. That every decision that you make is putting down a brick layer or the cement, the foundation of your skyscraper. Something that can never be toppled. No matter how harsh the outside world is, no matter how long it takes, your mind is yours. You can mold whatever you wish, and you can seek your desires. If you have an idea and a vision for what you want, then you can achieve it. But if you place your beliefs in physical items, monetary gain, then you will lose it eventually. There's a few ways to actually interpret this little silly quote, and perhaps we're all reading too much into it, but I think those are the best quotes of all. The ones that the author didn't even realize was as impactful as it is. Number 7, Steven Universe, Garnet.
But I've loved you since the moment I saw you.
Love at first sight doesn't exist. Love takes time and love takes work. At the very least, you have to know the other person. And you literally have no idea who or what I am.
Love at first sight doesn't exist. Love takes time and love takes work. We're taught all the time about the fairy tales of Snow White and all the other Disney tales about how the prince looks at his princess and immediately falls in love. But how can that possibly happen? How can love at first sight truly ever exist? Yes, you can be attracted to someone at first sight, but that's all it is. It's a physical attraction. You don't know that person's heart. You don't know who they really are. Beauty fades, but who they are as a person is something that will stay much longer. People can change, but do you want to marry a monster to try to change them to be someone good? Beauty is important in a relationship. It's important in the sense that the person should find you attractive. Being attractive isn't only about your physical appearance. It's about your mental state and your heart. A person can be beautiful, but have an ugly heart and an ugly mind. Someone who only wishes to crush those who are beneath them. Someone who puts themselves on a pedestal above all others. That is not a good person, and that is not a beautiful person. Their body may be a 10, but their personality couldn't get a single match on Tinder. And that's what Garnet's saying. The man that was in love with her isn't actually in love with her. He's in love with the idea of her, what he believes she is. He's taking away her own autonomy. He's not allowing her to be her, but wants her to fill a role that he desires. And that's not love, that's selfishness. Number 6, smile. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. Show yourself your own smile. You'll feel better then. People are told to smile all the time. They're told to smile when they don't feel happy, simply so that the other person can feel okay with themselves. They know there's something wrong with you, but they don't actually want to solve the problem. It's all about them at the end of the day. But you shouldn't smile for them. You shouldn't smile for me. You should smile for yourself, because it should make you happy. This could be taken literally or figuratively, in the sense of you shouldn't be doing things simply to please others, not all the time at least. You have to remember that it is okay to be selfish sometimes, that you are a person with your own needs and desire. You only get this one life, so be sure to give yourself something that you enjoy. Yes, it's great to help other people, that's commendable, but there's also nothing wrong with enjoying your own time for yourself. Spend your own money on yourself. Number 5, Kineki, Tokyo Ghoul. You're wrong. It's not the world that's messed up. It's those of us in it. Yes, some ghouls walk a path that leaves sorrow in their wake, but just like humans, we can choose a different path altogether. We have a lot to learn, both your kind and mine. We need to stop fighting and start talking, because when it comes to the state of the world, you can't point your finger at ghouls or humans. We're all to blame. Obviously, there are no ghouls in this world. We're not nearly as exciting. We don't have people with special powers as much as I wish we did. But so often, we're quick to blame another group for our problems, that it's not us, it's someone else. There's not just a series of complex scenarios that are out of your control, but it's always just one common enemy. It's the Jewish people, it's the Muslims, it's the Mexicans, it's the whites, it's the blacks, it's the Hispanics. It's always someone else, just someone that you can target, that you can take your frustration out on, when in reality there is no one person, no one group responsible for the plights of the world, and there is no action that you can take by eradicating said group that would save this world. It is a complex series of events that would only be taken out by cooperation. And that's its one weakness, the cooperation of all of humanity. And it's something that we need to strive for, not with guns or nukes or missiles, but with our mouths and our words and our actions. Number 4, BMO.
Been pulling some elaborate prank on me?
No, Jake. When bad things happen,
I know you want to believe they are a joke, but sometimes life is scary and dark. That is why we must find the light.
When bad things happen, I know you want to believe they are a joke, but sometimes life is scary and dark. That is why we must find the light. Most of you guys aren't super privileged. None of you probably grew up in a mansion with millions of dollars and a family that also completely cared for you and was always there. There's gotta be at least one moment where you felt like you were in a dark place that you didn't know how to get out of, or that you weren't exactly sure what you were doing with your life, or that you were just worried about something. And that is the moment where you could just cower in fear of the dark, like a kid without a nightlight, or you can get up and you can try to find your way out. There's always another way to solve a solution. In fact, there's always multiple ways. And sometimes you can't just sit there complacent and hoping someone else reaches out and pulls you out. And you can't just ignore the problem or feel that it's not actually there and that if you ignore it, it goes away. And that is the mentality of a child. And no one can stay a child forever. Eventually, you have to grow up. Eventually, you have to realize that life is cruel, and sometimes you have to fight for survival, and sometimes you have to be the only one who can pull yourself out of something. That's just the way the world is. Number 3, Code Geass.
The only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to be killed.
Only those willing to die should have the power to kill. It's kind of falling in line with the those who live by the sword die by it. If you want to take a life, you should be willing to have your life taken as well. So often are kings and monarchs and presidents and prime ministers willing to send hundreds of thousands of men and women to die, but they themselves sit comfortably in a bunker surrounded by secret servicemen. A leader who doesn't lead the charge is not a leader at all. If you're going to sit there on your throne of lies and swords to go out there and die for you, shouldn't you be willing to die for them? That's what a leader should be. But so often our leaders are not that. Lelouch for President 2021. Number 2, Full Metal Alchemist. A lesson without pain is meaningless, for you cannot gain something without sacrificing something else in return. But once you have recovered it and made it your own, you will gain an irreplaceable full metal heart. This follows the whole motive of equivalent exchange in the show. You don't get anything for nothing. Everything has a price and everything must be paid. There is a tab that will always be collected. Kind of like the IRS. They will find you and they will make you pay. Those lessons that we learn without being hurt or without some sort of pain, they're probably not lessons that were worth learning. We live and we experience and we hurt and we learn and we try not to do it again. And we fail and we learn and we try again. An endless cycle of imperfections. And the number 1 spot goes to Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. We weep for the blood of a bird, but not for the blood of a fish. Blessed are those with a voice. If the dolls could speak, no doubt they'd scream. I didn't want to become human. Humans kind of have a level of what they care about. As long as they have some sort of form of association with that thing, then they care whether or not it's killed or broken or harmed in any way. Those that can speak, dogs, cats, etc., we have strong empathy for. But if we're disassociated with said person or animal, then we feel it's our right to kill them. Plenty of people consume meat, though they disagree with the treatment of the animals, and yet they don't actually do anything about it because they can pretend it's not happening. They can push it to the back of their mind. We do this with groups all the time. We pretend like we don't understand them. We pretend that they're the other, that they're out, that they're not us. And that makes it easier for us to treat them poorly. It'd be unethical to enslave a human, but this isn't a human. This is someone lower than me. It'd be unethical to kill a human, but this is not a human. This is someone else. This is a monster. This is a person who needs to be destroyed. there's a bunch of other things that you could derive from this quote and context of the full movie. Well, anyways guys, this was my list for the top 10 memorable quotes that I could find for anime and cartoons. There were a lot of duplicate shows that I had that I could have used, that I didn't want to use. I didn't even really want to use Steven Universe twice, but I kind of really fell in love with the two quotes, and I wanted to talk about them specifically. Hopefully you don't mind too much. And for those of you who are disappointed MOP wasn't on this list, they actually make a lot more jokes than serious lines, sadly. At least serious lines that aren't about friendship over and over saying the same thing. Anyways guys, I've been Faith the Moliminous. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider supporting us on Patreon if you haven't already, and we do have a Discord server that is open to all of you. Follow me on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with things that I'm doing as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace to them out.
Hey. Love, 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 love. I feel love.